Hey everyone, I'm Drew.
And I'm Delco.
Welcome to the D&D show. So we're back, and we're still talking about perspective. And in that last episode, if you watched that, we gave an example of Elisha and his servant being surrounded by the king's army. And the servant was kind of freaking out because all he saw was horses and chariots. And Elisha just threw up a real simple prayer and just asked the Lord to open his servant's eyes so he could see. And when he did that, he saw things in a completely different way. He saw horses and chariots of fire, the Lord's army going to battle for them, to protect them and keep them safe. And the example we gave was just because sometimes we get in situations and we look at what's going on around us, and we tend to freak out and worry, get scared, whatever. We handle them inappropriately at times. And it was after that last episode I was talking to my brother, and because another example I gave was where Gideon and his army were going after the Midianites, and they surrounded the camp with the 300 men, and they had the trumpets and their torches, and that's all they had. And when the enemy saw them, when the Midianite army saw them and heard them blow their trumpets and let out their shout, they began to freak out. And again, kind of that whole perspective thing, when they saw that and just freaked out, was kind of along the same lines as Elisha and his servant, and can still relate to us as far as just freaking out. There are a couple things there. When I was talking to my brother, he's like, it's a really good example, because what happened when they actually heard the yell, it says here, and the 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to Bethel, Shittah, and Zererath, and to the border of Abel Maholah unto Tabbath. So, I have no idea where those places are, but basically, when they heard all this, they began to freak out and started turning on themselves and slaughtering themselves. And it was just a really good example of sometimes the way we react to certain situations, and how we could possibly tend to turn on ourselves. I don't know.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, I think that was like perfect, because that's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was thinking like how basically we destroy ourselves. I mean, obviously we see in this story of the Bible that they literally killed themselves, and I just thought that was crazy that that they basically turned against themselves with people that had torches and jars, But how often do we self-destruct ourselves because of maybe overthinking, maybe overdoing something, or maybe not even slowing down to the point where we can't hear God's voice, so we try to do stuff on our own, and God is trying to tell us, hey, just slow down a little bit, listen to me, so that I can show you which way you need to go. But sometimes we get so in a rush that we overdo stuff, and it could either be, like we said, destroying ourselves from doing it. So I thought that was a really cool story. I thought it was a good example of how God led them, and then he showed them that I am with you. Like sometimes we think that we have to fight our own battles, and God wants to do it for us. But like I said, we get in such a rush that we try to do it on our own, and we always, most of the time, fail. So I think that's a good example there in this story. And I just say that, let's stay encouraged, like the people that are watching. And we are literally asking for people that are watching us, if there are topics and stuff that you have that you want to talk about, just let us know. Just shoot us a message. Drew has posted on Facebook, Instagram now. Just let us know what you want to hear, what you want to talk about. Because we're trying to center this thing all about God. I know it's different topics and stuff like that we're going to be having that are going to be geared towards different things, but we want input, we want to be led the right way, and we want to know how you guys feel about what we're talking about. But like we were talking about anyway, with this, yes, that's pretty crazy, but we do, tend to self-destruct sometimes.
And I think, like you said, slowing down is big. because I think we say it in just about every episode. We live in such a fast-paced world. It's instant gratification. It's everything else, and sometimes we just need to slow down to speed up. And kind of the whole perspective thing. There's two ways we could look at this. We could look at the people and from the Midian army when they freaked out when they heard that. Backing up and reading through the first few chapters in the book of Judges, basically the Lord's angel approached Gideon and told him, this is what you need to do. And Gideon even kind of doubted himself and his capability. He's like, how am I going to do this? Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm with you. You can do this. And the interesting thing is, before they attacked, he started with like 30,000 troops in his army. And the Lord told him, I mean, he pretty much knew that they were prideful. Obviously, you read through and you see how many times that God would bail them out. He'd deliver them. He was delivering them into the promised land. They got to the point where they started mingling with all these non-believers, if you will, non-Israelites. And they began to forget who God was and what he really did for them to get them there. Time and time again, they'd find themselves in trouble. Then they'd cry out to God for help. He'd send somebody who would come in and totally deliver them and give them freedom, and then they'd get right back into it again. And he's like, you're not even doing what you promised you would. So when Gideon was approached by the Lord's angel, he questioned the angel and said, you can do this. And then just to be sure, I don't know if you're familiar with the story or not, but that's when Gideon puts out the fleece. And he wants a sign from God that this is really what I'm supposed to do. And two times, one time he puts the fleece out and asks in the morning the fleece be wet and the ground be dry. The next morning he says, please don't be mad at me, but I want to do this one more time just to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to. So this time I want the ground to be wet and the fleece to be dry, and that's what happened. So looking at it from both sides, I think we can learn from all of it. So I really appreciate my brother kind of throwing that out there. And when you look at it, it's that perspective. It gives it a whole different light. So there may be things in your life too that you think you might not be capable of. I know for us, we talking about starting this, we kind of were a little like, it sounds cool, can we really do it? We don't know where it's going to go, but so just I think the biggest thing when God was behind this, what really jumped out at me was, if you go on to the next verse, it says the three companies, or if you back up a little bit, it says the three companies blew the trumpets and broke the jars. They held in their left hands the torches, and in their right hands the trumpets to blow. And they cried out, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. So it just really goes to show you, they didn't even have to lift the sword, really. They just did what they were told to do, the way they were told to do it. Going back to the 30,000, I got off on that little rabbit trail. God knew that they were prideful and knew that if 30,000 troops went against the Midian army and beat them, then they would take that credit for themselves. So he had them tell everybody that was scared or didn't want to fight to go home. Send the cowards home, basically, which left them with another 10,000. So then he said, all right, take these 10,000 down to the water to drink, and then basically handpicked 300 people to do this because God himself knew what he was capable of. So it just goes to show you, when God's with you, I mean, you can do anything, regardless of what the situation looks like, regardless of what the circumstances look like, regardless of what the enemy looks like. He will give you what you need to get through it. So for whatever that's worth, perspective, that's kind of what I took away from that, what we've talked about. So I think it's pretty cool. It just gets me excited all over again.
And I would say with that, if you're doing something and you get the same result that you got the last time, then you probably shouldn't do it. Like as far as you saying like how God delivered them. He delivered them, and they were free, and they promised God that they would do something else, and they didn't. So then they went back to the same thing. So I mean, like it becomes a cycle. You know what I mean? Like we say, okay, Lord, just help me, deliver me from this, and then I'll be better. You know, like if it's the same result, then you have to do something different. Basically, you have to look at it from a different view, a different perspective. Because if you're getting the same result that you got the last time after God delivered you the last time, then you need to try something else. And
I
like
think they call that the definition of insanity.
insanity, yeah,
Doing the same thing over and
and
over and
again.
expecting a different result.
So yeah, so don't be insane. Just look at it from a different view and a different perspective. I know we all got stuff going on in our lives, and we're just here to encourage one another and encourage you. And to, I just told Drew that I think that the Lord has something in store for me and him. We just have to truly give it all to him so that he can truly use us. So like I said, if you have anything for us, any input, any ideas, let us know. And then we have Jeff coming on Thursday. We just want to throw that out. We have Jeff coming on with us Thursday to talk about anxiety and depression that is really big right now around us and in our society. And I thought it would be a good idea to get somebody on here that just knew a little bit about it. Me and Drew agreed to bring him on with us just to talk about it and get some stuff out there that people may need to hear and maybe be able to reach out to somebody and talk to them. So.
And I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That'll be a cool one.
Yeah.
So with that, I think we'll call it a wrap, and we'll see you in the next show. You guys have a good one.
All right, have a good one.